time for more Seattle Real Estate Radio with your hosts, Christian Nossum and Dan Keller.
All right, so we are back with Seattle Real Estate Radio on KKOL 1300. Just a reminder that we're here every single Monday at 3 o'clock.
From 3 to 4.
3 to 4, and we talk about what's happening in real estate and in the mortgage markets, but more specifically, we just kind of keep you up to speed with what's going on because it's moving pretty fast right now.
And we also like to bring in guests that educate you on different parts of the process of owning a home.
Yeah, every week we bring in an expert, a pro, which brings me to this week. So this week's segment is all about condos.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you talked on the before we went to break about how many people are coming to Seattle right now, where they're coming from, but a big part of those people are looking at condos because the housing market is growing so fast and kind of
well, a lot of tech workers too. They want to, and that's where most of these people that are moving to Seattle are. A lot of them, you know, they want to live downtown. They don't want to deal with our really horrible traffic.
Yeah.
So where's the most density you can have is in an apartment or a condo downtown.
Yeah, and with rents right now going through the roof, it does make sense. Yeah. So I'm excited for today.
Yep. So today we got Tiffany Palumbo is a resident insurance agent in the state of Washington with American Family Insurance. She is the owner of the Tiffany Palumbo Agency. She has a master's degree in business and has been protecting her clients' dreams for over 5 years. As a mother and a wife, she understands that protecting your family from risk is very important. I would agree with that. Her consultative approach, that's a hard word to say, but I did it somehow, helps to assess and accurately protect your family, leaving you with peace of mind. Thank you very much, Tiffany, for coming in today and and educating us. Showing us the way.
She's educated me. I mean, Tiffany is, in my opinion, she is a condo expert.
Yeah.
She's written policies for our clients, and we are going to drill you on condos for the next few minutes.
So we're going to start kind of 101. This is what we always do. Kind of start off with the easy, basic questions, make sure everyone's on the same page, and then we're going to go a little more in depth. So how does condo insurance differ from a regular kind of single-family detached home insurance?
That is a great question.
Good.
I think the main...
You can thank Shannon. She came up with it.
I think the main idea that you're really trying to understand is that whenever you're buying a single-family home, your HOA is not involved in your insurance process. Whereas with a condo, it is. You're sharing that liability because you have common structures at play.
Yeah.
So it's really important that you get in touch with your HOA and understand the bylaws and the coverages that they have in place.
Yeah. No, I would totally agree.
So Christian, when you list a home and you're talking to it, you ask the seller, you know, what do you ask them for? Their HOA docs, their resale cert? What are some of the things?
So as a seller, you have to provide a document called a resale certificate to the buyer. Well, the buyer has to order it and all that stuff. In that document is where all of the homeowner association bylaws, rules, regulations, that's where you're going to see the master policy, which I'll go over that. All those types of things are going to be within that resale certificate, as well as budgets, meeting minutes where you can tell if there's been issues or potential issues on the horizon that they need to repair, all sorts of things.
So before Tiffany talks about HOA and certain insurances, for somebody listening that doesn't understand another acronym that we talk about, HOA, what is an HOA real quick?
HOA stands for Homeowners Association. So when you're in a condo, let's say that there are 100 units in the condo, just for simple math. So there's 100 people. They all share the same building, yet they own a unit, a little apartment, a condo within that building. So there are rules in place to determine how things are run. There's a structure in place to explain, hey, if this happens, then we do this. If this happens, then we do this. If we all need a new roof, here's how we pay for it. It's all dictated in the Homeowners Association rules and regulations. They call them CC&Rs.
So that's what the HOA dues then contributes to.
That's why you pay monthly dues, because if you own a house, you can just save money and go, okay, well, I want to replace my roof in 3 years, or if it ends before that, I'll do that, but I got to save for it. Just like a homeowner association, they have to save for it too. So your dues go towards a bunch of common interests and common area maintenance. So for a condo, that homeowner association needs a master policy. So why don't you quickly, kind of Tiffany, condo expert, insurance person galore, Tiffany Palumbo agency, why don't you quickly explain what a master policy is so that people that are looking at potentially buying a condo, maybe there's a couple things they know to look for.
Yeah, the master policy is basically going to define the coverage that the HOA is providing for you. Okay. As a homeowner. So it'll basically have the limits in terms of the actual structure limits that they're covering, as well as if they have any liability associated, what kind of coverage that's providing.
I'm sure that increases if there's a pool or not, or if there's elevators or not.
Buildings, that sort of thing. Yep, okay. As well as it's going to tell you whether or not they have coverage for earthquake or extra optional things that sometimes certain homeowners association may elect not to cover. So
in order to save money potentially.
Yeah,
but
exactly.
You get less coverage, so it's always that trade-off.
Correct. So, I mean, especially when you're investing in a property, you want to know exactly how the other partner or HOA is protecting it so that there's no gaps in coverage.
Cool. That's a great answer. That simplified that process. Yeah. So if I owned a condo, there's the master policy that kind of covers the exterior, well, not just exterior, but the building and the amenities and kind of the liability side. Do I need my own policy in addition to that if I own a condo?
Absolutely.
Okay, and what is that called, and what does that include?
So what they usually refer to is a walls-in policy is what they expect you to have. What that's covering is basically the real property inside the structure. So, for example, if I were to define that, that would be the decorating, so finishing paint, wallpaper, paneling, floor coverings, cabinets and countertops, plumbing and electrical fixtures, built-in appliances, or any upgrades that you may make to the condo unit afterwards.
Does that usually cover from the drywall in, or would it be from like the paint in, or how specific does that get?
That's why you need to get the coverage documents, because it will specify that in the bylaws.
There you go.
Whether or not, in case of a loss, if it's going to be rebuilt to original construction, therefore not covering some of the upgrades you may have installed. Yeah. So that's why it's
this
important.
Is huge. You guys, I mean, Christian, you know this, and you take the same approach I do, and so does Tiffany. But when you're selling a condo to a client, these are things that need to be addressed, especially, you know, a lot's changed in the mortgage lending arena, and now they require an HO6 policy, this walls-in coverage. But understanding what the master policy covers, and what I was talking with Tiffany about earlier, was look at what the deductible is on that master policy. It could be, you know, $50,000, for example, if the condo complex or building was destroyed. Holy cow. Yeah. I mean, I know a lot of my clients don't, because I see their bank statements. They don't have an extra $50K sitting around to replace the inside of their condo because their neighbor left their stove on.
Rebuild the entire thing.
Yeah,
this
is big.
So So how about this? Does who should be the one that actually looks at the master policy to understand and help someone that is buying a condo? Is that you?
Yeah, your agent. They're going to be the one that's most educated to understand the coverages that are already provided.
And that, my friends, is why you need to work with someone that really understands condos.
Yeah.
I was trying to frame that question in that way. So
and like Dan was mentioning about the deductibles, there's also a difference in terms of the regular deductible versus loss assessment.
So explain what's loss assessment.
So, for example, most policies only provide either $1,000 to $2,000 for loss assessment coverage. If your HOA's policy, like you just said, has a deductible of $50,000, that $1,000 or $2,000 isn't going to go very far to help pay for that deductible. A loss assessment is basically defined as something that happens to the common property, a loss of some sort, and where the owned members are collectively assessed the deductible, spread out amongst them.
If it is a $50,000 deductible, everybody in the condo, they have their own
portion of it
that they
to
owe.
Provide.
Yep.
Correct. So there are endorsements available on an HO6 policy to increase that coverage for the loss assessment, whether it's $10,000, $50,000. So that's why it's important to know the HOA's deductible and make sure you have that endorsement to cover that.
Yep. So the HO6, is that what it's called?
Yes,
Yeah,
correct.
HO6.
So HO6, that's basically
A condo,
jargon
yes.
speak for the walls in policy that
Yes.
a homeowner or condo owner needs.
Correct.
Got it.
Yeah, and so many real estate professionals. I'm going to take this time to kind of go off on a little rant.
Go for it, Dan.
If you're a real
you
estate
never do
agent,
this, so this will be the first time.
But here's the thing. If you're a real estate professional, don't leave it up to your lender to have a great insurance professional to work
Exactly.
with. Reach out to Tiffany. Build a relationship with Tiffany. You want somebody like her in your corner. Every time I call her, she picks up or she texts me back right away.
Yep.
You want
That's
somebody
important.
like that. It's important because she just said it's your job to review the master policy, the resale cert. You need to be doing that. I can't tell you how many times I've funded mortgages for real estate agents, and they, in particular, one had me actually go pick it up. Hey,
Wow.
it's ready for you to pick up, and I'm like, oh, you want to go get that and review it, and then maybe get it over to us? No, it's ready for you to pick up. And he was working with the buyer. And so, yeah, it's just, you guys, this is so important, understanding what goes into this. Again, it's the largest financial decision of someone's life.
Probably
You know,
hire a professional.
Make sure you're working with a pro.
Yeah,
Yeah.
somebody that's good.
Yeah.
So I know when the real estate market crashed, there were some condos that kind of went downhill. The associations didn't have any money because no one was paying not many people were paying their dues.
Yeah, they were in default.
Exactly. So now, though, are there still condos? Well, are there ever condos that are in such bad shape, either financially or physically, that you just cannot get insurance?
There's actually two answers to that question.
No.
Yes
and no?
Well, it depends on who you're looking at. Are you looking to insure the actual homeowners association itself or
Okay.
just the unit owner? Because essentially, if you're just looking at the unit owner, you're only covering that walls in coverage. So therefore, the condition of the property is not going to really come into play with that walls in coverage. However, if you're looking at the homeowners association, absolutely. How much they have in reserves is part of that risk tolerance.
Yeah.
So if they don't have enough in the reserves, they're not keeping up with the property, it's most likely they're going to get a fix-it ticket before we're able to insure them.
Wow.
So,
That makes sense.
Yeah.
Well, we got to take a quick break. After the break, we are going to hear more from Tiffany Palumbo,
Yeah. It's going to
our
get good.
condo insurance
Yeah, this is
expert.
great.
And Dan is going to ask her some very good questions. So stay tuned to Seattle Real Estate Radio.
Seattle Real Estate Radio with your hosts, Christian Nossum and Dan Keller, continues after this. We're back with Seattle Real Estate Radio with your hosts, Christian Nossum and Dan Keller.
Hello, and welcome back to Seattle Real Estate Radio here on KKOL 1300 AM. We are here with our resident, not really, but I'm going to call her that anyway, our resident condo insurance expert, Tiffany Palumbo of the Tiffany Palumbo Agency. She is teaching us all about condo insurance, and it is a very complex, multi-layered issue that you really, if you're going to buy a condo, you really got to understand it.
You know, it's another professional that's joining us that's just reconfirming to us and to everybody else listening that this is the largest financial decision of your life, and you need to make sure you're working with a pro. You need to make sure that you understand the ins and outs because look what happens.
Yeah.
You don't.
If you don't,
Yeah.
you can really get...
Yeah. So, Tiffany, I get this asked all the time from clients during the mortgage approval process. Well, as it relates to a condo. Well, I already have insurance with my master policy, so why do I need this additional coverage? I think we've kind of talked about that.
correct.
But this is I want to use that to kind of segment back to the HO6. Review with our listeners exactly what an HO6 policy is and what it covers. But before you do that, I'm going to let everyone know that it is required. If you're financing a home, the guidelines changed with Fannie Mae and FHA in, I believe it was 2013. Don't quote me on the actual year, but it was around 2012, 2013, where they required all borrowers, regardless of what you put down, to have an HO6 policy in place on top of.
Why wouldn't you want that anyway?
And that was when that
Why would
when that
anyone wanna
guideline came out.
fight that?
That's what I wrote a blog. I wrote a blog on it. Why would you not want this? But here's the thing: it wasn't required. Nobody knew about it before, unless your agent brought it up.
Unless you had Tiffany Palumbo.
Well, it was a huge gut check for me. Check this out.
Right,
it was a
I guess
huge.
There's
sucker.
other people that know what they're doing too.
Well,
but
think about this. It was a huge sucker punch for me
Mm-hmm.
because I'd funded condos prior to that, and I didn't even bring it up to my clients. I didn't know.
Yeah.
And you say, well, why wouldn't you? I didn't know.
Yeah. And
So-
I think that's
Yeah.
And that's something that as we all become better
Yeah.
experts
Yeah.
as time goes on, we learn more and more.
Yeah.
So
explain again what the HO6 mandatory policy is if you're financing a home. Explain what it is and what it covers again.
So basically, the major component, like we've just talked about, is the walls and coverage. So the actual inside property cabinets and everything. Additional components would be your personal property. I mean,
so
your
it's kind of like
furniture,
almost like
your-
a renter's insurance where you're insuring your
Correct.
stuff,
Yeah.
but in addition to that, you're insuring the cabinets, the countertop, the appliances that are built in.
Yep.
Well,
that
it's
kind of
crazy to
stuff.
think that if something were to happen, my countertops are not insured,
Right.
or my,
Well,
my
but
hardwood
that's-
floors are
that's
not.
true,
yeah,
though.
my stainless
It's the
appliances.
truth.
Yeah.
It's the
Yeah,
truth,
and
and
even
that's why
though
it's important.
the master policy may cover those things, according to the bylaws, you might be slammed with a large deductible, like we talked about, or liability. Liability component is part of your HO6 policy to cover you for liability issues if you own a dog, if you've got kids, and they're acting crazy and something happens.
Yeah. Kids never act
it's-
crazy.
right?
What are you
No,
talking
not at
about?
all.
Never any injuries or issues with children.
Got
So,
it.
yeah.
So let me ask you this: bathroom fixtures. If countertops don't matter, I'm talking nice tub, toilet. You're on your own for that as well, right?
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah. Any upgrades?
It's basically the shell.
upgrade?
The master
Yeah.
policy
Yeah.
covers the shell of
Yeah.
the building and the interior walls. That's about it.
Okay. Well,
Like
and
the
then
studs.
another name for this HO6 policy is actually called "quote unquote" walls in.
Yeah.
Correct.
Okay. Good. Okay. So this is huge to understand.
Well, that's why we keep pounding on it, and it seems like we're saying the same thing over and over again. But people just don't understand, and they need to understand that. I mean, so let me ask you this question. I'm totally hijacking your
go.
segment, Dan.
Run with
But
it, man.
so explain kind of the cost of what a average walls-in policy really costs. I mean, they're not very expensive.
No.
It's not much more than a renter's policy, correct?
Well, there is additional. I mean, obviously, because you're covering
the
structural
cabinets and-
components. But it just depends on what you're buying.
Yeah.
Too. So I mean, some systems are just as sophisticated as rating off of census blocks, crime in the area, claims in the area type thing. But it is still, yes, very affordable. I mean, like you just said, why wouldn't you have it?
But compare a walls-in policy to a single-family home policy. It's going to be way less
Much-
expensive.
Correct.
Yeah.
Yeah, because you're sharing liability and the coverage for the structure.
Yeah.
So
So it's really, I mean, if anyone has renter's insurance and they're looking at buying a condo, it's
easy to
not
transition,
much more
correct.
than that.
Yeah.
And
So-
it's not as big of a difference in price.
Well,
compared
here's
to
something
a
that,
townhouse or a
but here's
single-family
something
home.
that may add to that. So what was this? 6 months ago, we had this huge scare about, not scare, but a lot of conversation took place about an earthquake or tsunami
Yeah.
hitting the Northwest.
The New Yorker article.
Yeah, the New
Yep.
Yorker article. Talk to us a little about earthquake coverage as it relates to that condo. So whether it's covered under master or is that a part of the HO6 policy?
Nope, it's always optional.
Okay.
So
neither?
Neither.
Wow.
Neither.
Yeah, it's a whole nother
It
layer
is-
that a condo
Even with a
association,
condo.
Correct.
condo
Wow.
association
Correct.
chooses if they want to have it or not. So that's why when it's on the MLS as an agent, it actually is a separate field that says your homeowner dues include water, sewer, garbage, earthquake insurance, and other random things.
Sure.
But
Okay.
it's an actual like another layer that the
Yeah.
association can choose to do. And there's you tell me, but
Yeah, whether it's a separate policy or an endorsement, it is something that has to be added.
So I'm seeing a
policy.
lot of people asking questions about it. What does that entail? What does it cost? What does it cover? What does it entail to get earthquake coverage
it's
on a
super
condo?
not cheap.
Yeah.
Well, that depends.
Yeah, I guess that's a good point.
Sometimes it can be actually very affordable if it's an endorsement on the policy. That makes a major difference because you're not going to another carrier to take out a separate policy. Therefore, it can be more affordable because it's attached to your main policy. However, a lot of people don't understand there is a different deductible association. It's not a monetary amount. It is a percentage amount, and it's always a percentage of your dwelling A coverage.
Got it.
So people have to understand,
that's good to know,
correct,
too. I
as
didn't
well
know that
as your personal property. Again, in that unit, you know, with an earthquake, everything's shaken.
Yep.
So it does add added protection for your personal property that might get damaged as a result as well.
You know, something that's just coming to mind as you're talking and as we're talking about this, seen a lot more condos hit the market, a lot more condos being built.
Well, there's only really, there's 3, but the 2 big ones are Luma on kind of First Hill and the Insignia, which is South Lake Union E, kind of Belltown on the edge.
So as condos are being built, constructed, or rebuilt, or converted, if
not too much of that anymore.
Not much of that,
No.
If there's a builder or an HOA president that hears this, or maybe listening, or I introduce them to you, can you offer master coverage policy instead, or not instead of, but in addition to working with individual purchasers on HO6?
Absolutely.
You can?
And it's really important, again, for them to reach out to an insurance professional. A lot of people that will come on and be elected as a president of an HOA sometimes don't understand that insurance portion, what they're really getting into. So it's helpful to have that expert in your corner to let you know about the additional policies, like a directors and officers policy that can cover you as a board member making decisions with that HOA, you know, package.
Never even heard of that one.
Yeah.
I've never also been on the board of a condo, so maybe that's why.
Well, I lived in a condo when I first purchased a home, and I can tell you what, the president and the secretary and all the people that hung out with her were annoying. Super annoying. I mean, more things on my doorstep, more emails, more mail than and I mean, so
You're
help me
selling
God.
the condo life
Yeah,
so
oh
well
my
right now,
God.
Dan.
No, but I mean, if I even took my shirt off prior to getting into the hot tub, I was getting a notice. I mean, they cracked down on it. Was crazy.
You got to wear your shirt in the
I
hot
don't
tub?
know, but you couldn't break the rules or do anything. It was just, but here's the thing. My point was, in financing these, getting a hold of people with, that are managing the HOAs and on those boards, they're not super helpful. They get you what we need, but as far as advice or questions, you're on your own.
Yeah.
So it's important that if you're
Another
listening,
reason why you got to have an expert on your side helping you out.
Yeah, I encourage, have a conversation with Tiffany.
I mean, as I think we pointed out pretty clearly, it is a pretty in-depth and pretty complicated process to have condo insurance and know that you have the right amount of coverage for both the master policy, which the whole association is covered by, or just your specific unit walls in HO6 or whatever the heck it's called.
Yeah,
another acronym, Dan. Why
one.
we gotta have we've been saying it, but we need to have an acronym button. Maybe we'll ask them for that.
It's congruent with our industry.
I know.
So every client is going to ask this when it comes to insurance because the doggone big brands. I'm not even going to give them credit on the radio, but if you have the bundle policies and this and that. So is there a discount associated with an HOA policy or HO6 policy if they combine it with their auto or whatever?
Oh, yeah.
There is.
Definitely.
Okay.
Even some providers provide discounts if your HOA master policy is with the same carrier.
Cool.
There are some additional benefits, too. So,
any additional discounts or related to, security? You mentioned earlier that there was
any
a security...
home protection devices. So, alarm systems, fire alarm systems. If you have sprinklers in the unit, that's a plus. Any home smart devices.
Oh, yeah? Which ones?
Yeah. So, I know there's some water detection ones out there. There's also Ring Doorbell.
Yeah, with the camera.
Yep. My company's
awesome.
just partnered with them to provide some additional discounts because essentially you're getting packages delivered to your door.
Yeah,
or
and
people are seeing
there.
if you're home. And if you've got that camera there to be able to talk to somebody as if you were home, it might keep from claims happening.
Well, one of the things I love about Tiffany and the Tiffany Palumbo agency, they protect your dream by making sure that you're adequately protected. Much like us, Christian, she takes an informative and educative approach.
I can't tell that at all.
No. Well, by educating you on your home, your auto, your business, and your life policies, there's a trusting, dependable relationship that's built. And Tiffany, I know for a fact that you can be counted on when you need answers, and God forbid something happens.
Yeah.
So if you would like to talk with Tiffany, she's always, like I said, she replies to text, she replies to my phone calls and my emails. If you would like to connect with Tiffany for a free insurance review, or if you're a builder or an HOA president or a real estate professional, just pick her brain and connect with her and use her as a resource.
Or even if you live in a condo association and you're like, holy crap, I didn't know that the master policy was such a big deal.
Yeah.
Is it covered? Do we have the right coverage? I mean, reach out. She's here to help you.
Yeah. I'm going to give you her number right now, but it's all up on Seattle Real Estate Radio. I encourage you to
all
contact
up on
her.
it.
All there. It's all there. She can be reached right now in the car, 425-967-3898. Reach out to Tiffany, pick her brain. She is a pro. Insure carefully, dream fearlessly is what she says.
Yeah. Well, thank you very much, Tiffany. You were awesome. I think a lot of people learned a lot. So stay tuned. We got to take a break.
Seattle Real Estate Radio with your hosts, Christian Nossum and Dan Keller.